Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Great Diversity Series, where we talk to diverse movers and shakers who are doing their thing across various disciplines. And they're here to share their lessons learned, the best practices they utilize, and also the mindset that they must have in order to achieve success and overcome adversity and obstacles. My name is Wesley Alexander, and I'm the CEO of CoBiz Richmond, a business incubator co-working space located in downtown Richmond, California. Today, we are blessed to have an extraordinary creative entrepreneur. He is a commercial and editorial photographer who specializes in portraits and sports and documentary photography. He's had the opportunity to capture people like Simone Biles, who's an Olympian, as well as the Houston Rockets team, J.J. Watts of the Houston Texans. He's also had quite a bit of engagements with top tier companies such as ESPN, the NCAA, Google, Slam Magazine, Bloomberg, The Atlantic, New York Times, and many others. And so he's obviously doing something right, being authentic to himself, and has a lot to share. So I'd like to welcome Michael Starghill, who is the founder of Michael Starghill Photography. And hopefully we can learn a lot from him today. So Michael, how you doing?
Wes, man, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Doing well out here, man.
Yes,
doing
indeed.
The best I can. How about that?
Hey, that's all we can do. And just for the record, where are you zooming in from?
Based in Houston,
Okay.
Texas. Yep.
Yes, indeed. And usually with these conversations, we like to really focus on the fact that you can be successful and still be down to earth, still be humble, still be just a regular person. So would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself in terms of where you're from and just a little bit about yourself in terms of educationally and professionally before we get into your entrepreneurial journey?
Okay, for sure. So I'm in Houston currently, which is where I grew up. Grew up in Houston, and then eventually I moved to DC, where I went to school, which is where you and I met. So I was there for about 10 years, lived in Sacramento for a couple of years, and then moved back to Houston. So never thought I would be back, but here I am, full circle here.
I understand. When did you identify that you had a passion for photography?
I'd say around probably my sophomore year of college. I actually didn't know I had a passion for photography just yet, but I did want to take some film and video classes while I was in school, because I thought it would just be kind of cool to play around with that. But I couldn't take that class until I took photography first. And so that was kind of where I got the bug. I had to do a homework assignment to visit a gallery in DC. Just pick any gallery, go to it, and write about it. That was the homework assignment. And the one I happened to pick was this gallery with a bunch of sports photos in it. This photographer named Walter Yost. And I just thought his pictures were incredible. And so from that point on, it put a little bug in my head, like, this is something I might want to do. And at the time, while I was at American University, I was studying political science. And so that was my major. That was what I was going towards. But I thought photography was pretty cool at that point. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep this in my back pocket and maybe we can see what happens with it.
Understand. So in the process of, like you said, you went to school for political science, and then you got introduced to photography, and then you got the bug inside you. How did you hone your skills? Or how did you continue to expand your knowledge in that arena to get better at the craft?
Oh man, just looking at pictures of other photographers that I admired, looking at books, going out and shooting myself, getting feedback from my classmates and feedback from my teachers, just like what, they thought was cool, and just trying to figure out what my vision was. Actually, I wasn't figuring out what my vision was at that point. I was just taking pictures and doing the assignments. But I really wanted to get into sports photography. And so that's kind of where I started to steer. I started to steer in that direction.
So when did you make the decision to say, you know what, I want to go after this as a career, as a calling, as a way of sustaining yourself?
So I think I said around sophomore year, I kind of got the bug. And so when I got towards my senior year, I was like, all right, let's see what else I can do with this. So it was like probably second semester, senior year. I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to get an internship at like the Washington Post or USA Today or something like that. And I thought, if I try hard and I reach out to these folks, then maybe I can get into that position. But I had been doing photography very loosely for maybe like 2 or 3 semesters, and not even with a serious concentration. And so like all those people who were getting internships at different papers in like Baltimore and Montgomery County, Washington, Virginia, like they had been studying photography like their entire time in school, like taking pictures and I wasn't doing that. And so I had the thought that I was just gonna like kind of slide in there and get an internship and like go from there, but that was not the case. And so by the time I got to I did a little internship at this tiny little paper in DC. It was called The Common Denominator. It came out bi-weekly, I want to say. And so the publisher there, she gave me that opportunity to do that. And so I did, and I enjoyed myself, but I still had no idea what I was doing. And so by the time graduation rolled around, I had always thought that I would possibly go to law school after getting my political science degree. And I was like, I do not want to go back to school right now. I'm not trying to do another 3 years. Law school is just a bunch of reading and more reading and more reading. I'm not trying to do it. So I was like, all right, let me try photography. And so I tried photography, not very well. I ended up working at a restaurant for about 18 months before I actually got any kind of, hold in the game at all. So that was kind of an interesting journey and awakening, I would say, about what my hustle needed to be and like what I needed to do to get where I wanted to be.
I understand. I'm happy that you emphasized that initially. First of all, the road to success wasn't a straight line.
Yeah.
Right. And then you also mentioned that it didn't go well at first. Can you speak to what you mean by it did not go well? Because a lot of times people give up on their calling or their passion just because the first initial journey isn't what they thought it would be. And can you speak to that part?
Yeah. So when I say it didn't go well, I was reaching out to these hiring managers, reaching out to different photo editors, trying to get an opportunity to be a photographer, be a photojournalist, be somebody who's at the games on the sidelines. And I realized that I had no idea like what it took to actually be a photographer. And that's what I mean when I say it didn't go that well, because I didn't know, like I didn't have the access to these institutions or the access to these pathways to what it took to be a photographer. I just thought it would be something cool to do, and I'm just going to jump out here and do it. So once I gained that knowledge of what it took and where I needed to be and who I needed to be talking to and what I needed to be shooting, then that's where I kind of was able to wrap my mind around the path, this crooked path that I was going to take. It was a little bit clearer for me.
That makes sense. And so you mentioned that you worked at a restaurant for 18 months, and during that time you were kind of learning what it takes to be a photographer. There are plenty of creatives, whether they're in the photography space, the music space, or arts. Sometimes everyone wants to jump into what they want to do right away. But like you said, start working in a restaurant, you learn the craft, you learn what you need to do to hone in on your vision. Can you share with people, what does it take to be a photographer or to be a productive photographer?
Well, if you were as green as I was at that point, and like had no idea what I was doing, it just takes a lot of ambition, I would say, a lot of want to, because while I was working at the restaurant, basically after my shift, I would go to like high school football practices and just shoot for free, because that's what I wanted to do. So I think you need to kind of find, well, first of all, as a photographer, I needed to create a body of work for myself. And I didn't know that's what I was doing, but I definitely I definitely knew that I needed to have some kind of portfolio to be able to show people, because that's not what I had at that point. So that's what I needed to do. I needed to get out and shoot and have some kind of ambition and some kind of initiative to be able to create the work that I wanted to create.
When you mentioned portfolio, it's not something that's handed to you. Can you share with I know you mentioned going to the high school games. Can you speak to the level of hustle that's required to make a way when it comes to being able to show people what you can do?
I'm sorry, say that again. What was that question?
I was saying, can you share with us how you were able to create a portfolio? A lot of times it requires a certain level of, like you said, ambition and hustle. Can you share some of your tips as to how other creatives can create their portfolio, especially in the photography space?
Well, I think you just need to figure out what you want to shoot and then go out and shoot that, like unprompted. Don't wait for somebody to give you an assignment. Like, figure out the space that you want to be in, and then, go out and create work that's like that space. So for me, I wanted to shoot sports. I wanted to shoot sports documentary stuff. So basically what I did is I linked up with a high school football coach in DC and told him what I wanted to do. And hopefully he said, okay. If he didn't, then it was gonna be on to the next coach. And if that coach said no, then I was gonna be on to the next coach. Just a little bit, gotta be persistent, and if you want to reach that goal, you kind of got to be persistent and figure out, what space you want to be in and create work for that space.
Damn. Now, in terms of the business side of photography, the contracts, the trademarks and copyrights and things of that nature, how was learning that part of the business?
So I was fortunate to. So after that 18 months at the restaurant, I kind of got a full-time job with another photographer. And so I was a photo assistant. So basically I was doing all of the work I was doing like the, like the grunt work, I would say. I was carrying bags, setting up lights, doing all that kind of stuff. And in response, I got paid for that, but in return, I also kind of learned, how a business runs. I learned like all kinds of techniques about lighting and about photography, and learning about how photographers interact with the people that they're photographing. And so, along with that, I just picked up different things from different photographers. Like working with different photographers, I picked up different things. So that's pretty much how I learned about the business and about, photography is a lot more than just taking pictures.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you speak to what you mean by that when you say it's a lot more than just taking pictures?
It's networking, it's reaching out to people, it's cultivating relationships, it's keeping those relationships, it's marketing, like it's all of that stuff. Because so you can be great at photography, but if you don't have anybody who wants to hire you, then it's I guess all for nothing. You won't make a good living at it. How about that? You can take all the pictures that you want, but you won't make a good living. So it's about creating those relationships.
And how do you go about creating those relationships?
Also persistence. So you don't want to be annoying per se, but you do want to be persistent, because there's like a right place, right time kind of element to reaching out to these folks and getting hired by them. And if you keep reaching out to them without being like annoying, then eventually your time will come up, and then it's off from there. But yeah, it's all about relationships and networking and continuing to create good work, but also continuing to reach out to those folks who hire people who create good work.
And generally, so as an entrepreneur, can you speak to some of the challenges that you've encountered during your journey running your business for the 14 years now?
I say 12 because that's when I opened up my bank account. Well, I mean, there's been a lot of challenges, I would say. Just in running a business, there's always challenges that pop up. Circumventing those challenges is also about just persistence, because if you run into a challenge or you hit a wall, you just got to figure out like how you get around that wall or how you break that wall down. So specifically, I can't think of anything specifically right now. But yeah, I mean, if I can just go back to like the networking thing, or just starting out. Yeah, so starting out, like I thought I was going to get an internship. That didn't, at a major paper, that didn't really happen. So that was one challenge I had to figure out. Okay, so what's the next step here? So I was working at the restaurant. I was like, okay, how can I get paid doing what I want to do? And so I found out that you can be a photo assistant and get paid and learn on the job. So that was another challenge that I ran into, and then kind of found a way around it. Okay, now I want to go out and start shooting on my own. I don't want to be a photo assistant anymore. Like, what do I need to do? Okay, I need to reach out to these people and be persistent and show them what I'm working on and show them my consistency, and then maybe I can make this happen. So that was another challenge. So I think at every step of the way, there's some kind of challenge, some kind of roadblock that you need to get around, and that can be achieved just by absorbing more knowledge and keeping it going, being persistent about it.
And so I imagine 2008, 2009, there was the great economic challenges at that particular time. During 2020, with COVID-19 shelter in place, some more challenges that are out of our control. How do you, as a creative entrepreneur, keep the lights on and keep things moving forward?
That's a good question, because this is one challenge I never, thought I would be facing, or wasn't really prepared for. So I'd say when March came around, if we're talking about COVID specifically, I didn't do anything from March till like about the beginning of June. Like I got no phone calls, no projects. All the projects that I had lined up and got canceled, so or postponed. So I didn't know what to do, and so after a few weeks of like some real slow downtime, I was like, all right, well, what can I do in my time while nothing is happening? So, I went through a bunch of old work. I updated my portfolio. Like, I didn't reach out to people at that time because everybody was kind of dealing with this, not knowing what was next. Budgets probably shrinking and all that. So I didn't reach out to people. I didn't do big marketing for them or anything like that. But what I did do was kind of line my ducks up in a row. So when it got to a point where we can start doing business again, then I would be ready. So that's kind of what I did. I updated my contact lists. I went through all my emails and figured out who I reached out to in the past and who previously had been interested in my work and who I wanted to work with in the future, and just kind of organized all that stuff so it can be ready to go. So yeah.
Now, I know sometimes creatives are really talented at creating the art, but sometimes the customer engagement can sometimes be challenging in terms of the initial engagement, and then after let's say the product is created, the follow-up, the feedback, things of that nature. Can you tell us about your process in terms of how you engage with the customer, how you deliver the actual item, and then how do you transition from that customer into the next thing?
Man, I don't know. This some real business talk right here. Because as a photographer, which I don't know, maybe this is the right way to do it, or not, or the wrong way. I kind of veer in and out of the creative space and the business space. You know what I mean? So I'm not like always in one lane or the other.
Correct.
So just when it comes to interacting with clients or customers, I think in terms of the process, I think at the beginning we have to kind of be on the same page of what the vision is, like what does it look like, what are we doing, and then from there we execute the project, hopefully to everybody's satisfaction, and then deliver what we said we were going to deliver, and move on to the next. I don't really have a mapped out process about how that works, but it does. And a lot of my projects aren't, like long-term, 2-3 month planning things. I could get a call in the morning to go photograph a portrait of somebody for, the newspaper in the afternoon. So it could be as short as that, or it could be as long as like a, 2 or 3 month planning. So yeah, it varies for sure.
Are there any particular tools that you use to kind of help you manage the business side of things, to make your life easier in that regard?
You mean like software and stuff like that?
Yeah, software, anything you may to communicate with your clients more efficiently. Is there anything that you when you want to share the pictures, there's particularly use Dropbox, or you using
okay.
iFrame?
Yeah, I mean, email, of course. I have my website set up on Photo Shelter, and so that's a good way for me to upload like the proofs from the shoot, and get those to the client. And what else? Yeah, it's pretty simple. Like I said, I don't have like a streamlined, like perfect way that I do it every time. Although I probably should help me be more efficient, but yeah, I don't.
So right now, are you currently a one-man team, or do you have a team of others who help you scale and grow your business right now?
No, I'm a one-man team. And then I hire people kind of as needed as contractors. But yeah, since 2008, it's just kind of been me doing my thing. And that's interesting how you mentioned scaling, because as a photographer, and I have friends who have businesses, and like they talk about scaling, and I'm like, okay, how can I do this same thing as a photographer? And I just can't get there, because photography for me is so personal. Like it's my vision, it's my creativity. So if I don't feel like I can hire somebody else to go out to a shoot and shoot like what I want, what my vision is. You know what I mean? So I haven't figured out scaling, and I don't think photographers in general think about how to scale their business. Some do. Some have like a team of like 10 or 11 photographers that they send out to weddings and events and stuff like that. But as far as me and the work that I do, scaling is something that I haven't been able to quite figure out.
I understand. Well, I guess when you think about yourself 10 years from now, where do you see the business?
Man, 10 years from now, I don't even know if I'm gonna be doing this 10 years from now. To be quite honest, who knows, man? Um, but let's just say I would love to be shooting more advertising projects. I got into this so I could shoot sports. Originally, it was, sports games. I wanted to be on the sideline. I wanted to be like on the baseline taking pictures. But as I've kind of evolved and, figured out what would be best for me and what would be best for my family, what would be best for growth, I'd like to get more into shooting like campaigns for major athletic brands like Nike or Adidas or Under Armour and stuff like that. So, you know, over the years, as I've progressed in my career, I've had new goals and new milestones for myself, and that would be the next goal is to shoot more more advertising for athletic brands for sure.
Sense. Now, earlier on, when you said you first started, you realized that you need to have a vision. And then you mentioned that when you're dealing with customers or clients, that you also need to be on the same page about the vision of the project. Can you speak to how important it is to have goals, to have milestones as you go along your journey to help you achieve the things you want to achieve?
I think that's super important to have goals because otherwise you're just kind of going with the flow and doing, the next thing that's right in front of you. If you don't have goals or a vision or, any idea of what you want to do in the future, then what's your process or what's your why on what you're doing currently? So yeah, I think it's very important to have goals if you want to succeed at what you're doing at the moment.
I understand. And so as a creative, what are your tips in terms of how people can identify great goals for themselves in terms of from a creative entrepreneurial perspective?
Yeah. So I think what every creative gets into the business because there is a goal. Like I said before, for me, it was shooting sports. Like I wanted to shoot for Sports Illustrated and ESPN the magazine and stuff like that. Okay, so like how do I get there? I didn't just get into photography because that was a thing to do, or I was gonna make a bunch of money, or it was gonna be easy. Like I was like, oh, I think I would like to shoot sports, and so that's why I got into it. And so I made goals for myself at kind of every juncture to and figure out a plan or a path to get there.
Gotcha. Did you? I know you mentioned that you were an assistant, or I think a photo editor. Were there any other mentors, or do you suggest people also connect with other mentors or people who have been doing it to kind of learn what they don't know?
Yeah, I 100% recommend that to anybody in any field if you're just starting out. And even if you're not, like, even now, 12 years in, for me, I would definitely, I would gladly take on a mentor or have a mentor take on me just so I can continue to grow. I think it's super important to have people who have kind of been in the game longer than you have, or maybe have been more successful than you. I think it's important for you to have that relationship and talk to them so you won't make the same mistakes that they did, or if they have some insight that they're willing to share that can help you along. I mean, if any photographer wants to talk, any photographer starting out or any photographer period wants to talk to me about what a path would be, or how did I get started, or when I came to this particular roadblock, like what did I do? I would be more than happy to talk to them about it, because that has been important to me, like in the photographers that I've talked to, as I've grown up in this industry. So a mentor is not only important, I think it's essential, mandatory. How about that?
I think we can work with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, in terms of your portfolio, in terms of the clients you have worked with, they're pretty impressive. How do you feel about your portfolio? Was it unexpected? Was it when they listed? Did you have some of these companies, like let's say ESPN, were they listed as some of the companies you want to reach by 2020? Like, how did you end up getting some of these clients?
Yeah, I definitely had ESPN on the list for a long time, like especially when I started out, because I wanted to be featured in those magazines. I wanted to do the work that was being done in those magazines. Although I wasn't there yet, that was my goal. And just over the years, I see like the kind of work that they're putting out, and I try not duplicate it, but I would say I try to polish my work and get it to like a production value that's to that level, so I can be able to work for them when I do get the call. So, you know, basically what I wanted to do is just continue to do the work that I wanted to do, but also kind of see what work they were publishing, so we'd be on the same page, but have my twist on it. And so just over the years, as I've shot these different portraits of people, it kind of opened up a new door. Like, oh, Mike can do this kind of work, so let's hire him for that, and then I'll shoot that, and then it kind of opens up another door. It's just all about the progression of your work and your progress.
And can you also speak to the importance of, let's say, being on time with your deliverables, or being on time for an actual photo shoot? To speak to the professionalism that's required to kind of establish a strong reputation and for people to trust you.
Well, yeah, that's super important too, especially if you are an independent photographer like I am. If you're late to a shoot, or if you're late on deliverables, like, that gives that person who you're working with, even if your work is very good, it gives that person who you're working with like an excuse to not hire you the next time, even if they might like your work. Like, oh, well, we needed these pictures on Wednesday at 5:00, but Mike didn't get it to us until Friday morning. I can't take that chance this time because we're on a tight deadline. Even though I love his work, like, we just can't. We can't risk it. So I think that's important, to uphold your reputation and uphold your own professionalism, to be able to continue to work with folks and have those folks tell other folks that, oh, you should hire Mike to do this because this and this. Not only is his work good, but he's on time, he represents us well. Even though I don't work for this company, I'm a representative of that company while I'm working with them. So I think that's pretty important, especially as an independent photographer.
Awesome. And have you noticed at times a lack of professionalism in the photography space, or do you not lack? I mean, you see that in any arena, any industry, but have you noticed any particular trends that you feel kind of keep holding people back?
I don't think so. I mean, I would say it's definitely more loose than your average corporate kind of career, I guess. Maybe it matters, but like I can show up to a shoot with a t-shirt and jeans and kind of like roll around on the floor like trying to get the shot, you know what I mean? And so I think, I don't want to say it's a lack of professionalism, but definitely the standards for what is traditionally like workplace are, I guess I would say, are a little more loose for photography. Doesn't mean you can be late. Doesn't mean you can come to the shoot drunk or anything like that. But there's definitely some professionalism involved. But it's not as strict as say if you worked at like a law firm or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I know sometimes entrepreneurs, cash is king, right? For any business, cash is king, and getting paid is sometimes can be challenging at times. Do you have any best practices for how you're able to kind of ensure that you're paid on time, or that any workarounds when you face issues with customers who aren't paying on time, things of that nature?
No, I'm still trying to figure that out. Because a lot of the times companies you work with, and I work with so many different companies throughout the year, there's always these different invoicing processes, or vendor signups, vendor registrations, like all that kind of stuff. They're on their own pay schedule. So if you figured out like a uniform way that I can get paid like right after this shoot, then help me out, because I'm still trying to figure it out. But yeah, there's some things you can do. Like you can say, all right, this is due in 14 days or 30 days. And if not, there's like a 10% penalty or something like that, or a 10% fee. Sometimes they adhere to that, and then if they do pay late, then you're gonna have to chase that other fee on top of that. So, being an independent photographer, there's a lot of obstacles like that. Being the small fish, like in the big corporate pond. I can't turn the lights off if they don't pay me on time. I can't turn off the internet if they don't pay me on time. So, yeah, that's definitely something that is an issue sometimes, but most of the time it's pretty good. I haven't been paid once in 12 years.
Wow. All right now.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're persistent, so.
I've been paid late for sure, but I always got the money. There's only one time I never got the money. I need to reach out to them again and see if they want to pay me now.
All right. Hey, you never know. Put some interest on that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you what do you love most about photography?
Man, I think I love the spontaneity and just like the ability to meet new people and go new places. And then I get to, I get to leave after that. I get to go home. I've been a lot of places that I wouldn't have been invited to otherwise, because of photography. I've met a lot of people that I probably wouldn't have met otherwise because of photography. So I think that's my favorite part. I guess my favorite part would be actually creating the work, but I guess that goes without saying. But secondarily, just being in this field, just the people that I'm able to meet, and interact with and have that connection with, and the places I'm able to go, it's pretty cool. I've been to a lot of cool places, so.
Let's come on, share a story. What have you give us a place to get into that you think is pretty amazing?
Yeah, like I met Simone Biles before she won a bunch of gold medals. Like it was, I think she had won like 3 world championships in a row. She had never been to the Olympics yet. When she was 19. Yeah, and I met her, and I got the chance to take her portrait. When else would I be able to do that? Like, I'll play with T-Mac on 2K or something, or NBA Live.
Tracy.
Tracy McGrady. And like a few months ago, I got to take a portrait in his home gym. When would I be able to do that? Just things like that. Like I've been to the CIA before. When am I ever going to get to go there again? Unless I get another, shoot. I'm not going to be a spy anytime soon. So just things like that.
That's pretty cool. Cool. So how do you go about marketing your services so businesses and companies can find you, or individuals?
So over the years, I've kind of realized the right people to contact, like the right titles. The people who have certain titles, they usually hire the photographers. So I've kind of learned who those people are over the years, and being persistent about reaching out to them, telling them what city I'm in, because a lot of times now companies don't usually have the budgets to fly photographers out. So if there's a story in Houston, or if there's a company in Houston, and being in the oil and gas industry, like there's a lot of stuff here. Well, Houston being like a big oil and gas market, there's a lot of companies that have like big offices here, or big headquarters here. So just making sure people know where I am and know what kind of work that I do, and I know, and me knowing those people's job titles, I just send them stuff via email usually. Just kind of like a quarterly marketing thing. Like, here's where I am, here's what I'm doing, this is what I'm working on now. And a lot of times I get no response for maybe like the ESPN, for example. I sent them stuff for 2-3 years maybe before I got my first job there. So it's just about being persistent and reaching out to those folks that you know have the ability and the power, I guess, to hire you. Figuring out who those folks are and reaching out to them independently and also consistently.
That makes a lot of sense. That persistence is key.
Yeah.
And being dogged about it, that's just the nature of the beast. So I definitely salute you for that.
And before COVID, I just want to say one more thing. Before COVID, I would also like go to New York and try to meet with like a bunch of publishers and editors and stuff like that, or just try to reach out to folks here in town and get a face-to-face meeting. Because those are pretty important too.
The face-to-face meetings.
Yeah, for sure.
And why? And I mean, we're living in an age where a lot of people have been able to hide behind their screen in terms of interactions. Can you speak to why the face-to-face interaction is valuable?
I don't know, man. I think it just gives people more of a comfort, because like I said, like when you go out to shoot, you're representing that company for the day or however long that project is. So it just gives people, I guess, comfort in knowing that you're not going to go and be crazy out there. It also gives people a chance to like kind of feel out your personality and feel like if you're going to work well together. And at that point, if you get a face-to-face meeting, especially in 2020, let's not say 2020. If you get a face-to-face meeting in 2021, then they've already like looked at your work. They've already seen what you can do, and they've already kind of aligned themselves with their vision for what they want for their creative. So the face-to-face meeting is just kind of like the icing on the cake, is like the deal sealer. So that's why I think those are important, because in the age of the internet, they can see all your work on Instagram or your website or whatever. So that's why I think face-to-face is pretty important.
Makes a lot of sense. And as you reflect on your 12 years, is there something that you wish is there anything that you wish someone told you before you took this journey?
I think I wish someone would have prepared me beforehand, like how long everything was going to take. And not to say that it took a long time. It's everything is not instant, It takes time, it takes energy, it takes effort, and it takes repeating that day after day after day after day. And so at the beginning, I was pretty impatient about stuff not happening for me the way I wanted it to happen, or as fast as I wanted it to happen.
What do you exactly mean by that?
Like, why didn't I get this internship, or why isn't this company hiring me? Like, I showed them my work, they said they liked it. Like, why? Okay, it's the next day. Why haven't they called me for a project? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just that kind of stuff. Not understanding the process and how long it takes would have been helpful if somebody would have told me that at the beginning. Yeah.
And when you say that process, you mean in terms of even just a customer or a client going through their own internal process to approve you as the vendor?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. All of that stuff. and then there being a project that you would be compatible with, you know what I mean? If there's like I pretty much only photograph people. So if it's a portrait or if it's sports or documentary stuff or lifestyle or like corporate, like annual report stuff, there's always people in there. So if an advertising agency has like something that they're doing for food and beverage company, they're not going to call me for that. So I needed to have that patience to be, to understand that when it's my turn, it's going to be my turn, and not try to like force it or not follow up and say, hey, you got any projects for me? Or hey, why haven't you called me yet? Just understand that, you know, there's a process for everything.
Yes, indeed. And then lastly, sometimes some people say all business is good business, but have you ever had a situation where you had to decline a project because it wasn't in alignment with either your strengths or your values or anything of that nature?
Yeah, I've had declined projects for a bunch of different reasons, but yeah, first off, to your point, yeah, I've had to turn down like architecture stuff because I just didn't think I would be the right person to deliver what they needed. Even though they did like my work, there's no buildings in my work. There's no interiors in my work. So I just didn't want to set myself up to be, to produce some mediocre work that would like burn me in the long run. I've had to turn down jobs because the budget wasn't big enough, or I had to turn down jobs because I'm just not available on that day. So, you know, as an independent photographer, like turning down jobs, it like always hurts. And especially the ones that you really think are cool, but they're just not, they don't have the budget, or, you know, it happens to be the wrong day. It's just, it always hurts turning those down, for sure.
So it seems like in a situation where you may turn down the project because they may not have the budget, sometimes people don't know their value. Mm-hmm. How did you discover your value? How did you know that this is what you should be charging?
It just, you know, that's where the mentor thing comes in. Like figuring out, okay, where should I be like in my rate range for this particular thing? Because photography, along with other creative endeavors or other creative professions, it's kind of a wild, wild west. There's no like rate fee or rate structure or how you should do things. Like anybody can just pick up a camera and, you know, if their work is good enough, they can charge whatever they want. So if a company calls one photographer, like, okay, this shoot is going to cost you $50,000, and then somebody would call another photographer, and that photographer say, okay, this shoot is going to cost you $5,000. And then, yeah, a third photographer would say, oh, this shoot is going to cost you $500 plus like a year membership to whatever, you know? So that's what I mean by the Wild Wild West. So I went off on a tangent. What was your question?
No, you answered the question in terms of identifying your value and.
Oh yes, identifying value. Yeah, so I'd say, you know, just doing your research. There's a lot of resources out there, and definitely talking to other photographers, mentors, people who've been in the game longer than you, and people who are willing to share that stuff. It's just important to just soak in all of that information, so you'll know if you mess it up one time, or you think you charged not enough money one time, and you can come back the next time and say, oh, okay, I'm supposed to be charging this, or this, what they're asking for is worth this. So that's part of, you know, figuring out your value, for sure.
Makes sense. So we have a question from Ms. Gwendolyn Mitchell. She said she checked out your website, said you had some beautiful work. She can see that you have a love for the art of photography and the play shots. Said keep up the good work. But her question is, have you ever considered producing a coffee table book?
Yes, and no. The yes part is, yeah, I think it would be cool to have a coffee table book of some of my work, and just have that like physical thing that I can flip through the pages and show people and maybe sell. But the no part of that is, do people, want a coffee table book of a bunch of the stuff that I shoot?
They do.
Like high school football documentary projects, you know what I mean? So yeah, the first part is, yeah, I think it would be cool.
I understand.
But the second part is there a demand? Is there a demand for that?
Well, real quick, you can test it with a digital format of your coffee book. Yeah. I mean, listen, you've been taking shots with Simone before she was Olympian, to you said taking pictures within the CIA headquarters, to the house of Tracy McGrady. Everyone doesn't have that wide range of experience to showcase. So maybe if not now, 10 years from now, you better do something. Yeah. So we have one more question here from one of our incubator participants, Harleen. She said, is there a pattern you notice in this? Is there a pattern that you notice in the subjects you are shooting, and how do they transition on to off camera at times? So she said, for example, known and famous people are consistent in their presentation and interaction on and off camera versus a personal portraiture of a client. And how does that affect it? And how does this affect how you effectively shoot a subject? Does it impact the delivery of the vision? So quite a few questions in there, but hopefully.
Yeah. Wait, where do I need to click on the chat?
Yeah, it's on the chat, yeah.
So in response to how they transition on to off camera, I haven't really photographed anybody famous enough that you would think of, like, okay, red lights on, I gotta be on. And then when I put the camera down, it's like, all right, I'm gonna rest now. But I will tell you that there is no particular pattern when I'm photographing anybody. I feel like everybody's different, which is why I think it's important to, do your research on who you're photographing, which I do all the time, just because there's so much information out there. Like, I can just Google up, most of the people that I photograph, and there's something there. Because you only have a short amount of time to be with them in the first place. So you want to kind of establish some kind of connection, some kind of relationship, because it's awkward being photographed. Like, I can admit that, and I can say, like, there's a certain dynamic that's not that comfortable to have like a camera pointed at you and you're supposed to be doing certain things. So I think it's important to make sure people feel comfortable with being photographed, and just kind of having that rapport, and maybe talking to them about something that they are interested in, or like, just kind of establishing connection, establishing some kind of relationship in the short amount of time that you have. So, and sometimes, folks are not in the mood to really be photographed. And it's not like there's not a whole lot you can do about it. You just get what you get. So sometimes you can have a bad one, and sometimes it'll work out great.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And is there one picture that stands out to you in terms of something that a picture that you love the most? Is there one that you can think of that you've taken?
Probably. But I don't think any of them have been like stuff that I've done for work though.
Words.
Yeah, they're probably all pictures of my daughter.
I hear you on that.
So every she's 3 right now. So in the past Halloweens, we've dressed her as Serena Williams and Simone Biles and Troy Polamalu.
All right.
And I think those are some of my favorite pictures.
Awesome. Well, I know
we do like a whole photo shoot. So.
Gotcha. Well, I know we're on the top of the hour. We want to be respectful of your time. Really appreciate the insights you have shared with us. We know a lot of creators are going through challenges with COVID-19, shelter in place, things of that nature. Do you have any parting words of encouragement that you'd like to offer to people in the creative space and just entrepreneurs as a whole?
Yeah, I would just say keep on pushing. Just keep going, because you never know how close you are to, breaking down that wall or knocking down that door. Don't keep pushing to the detriment of your own health or the detriment to any relationships that you have with people that are close to you. But definitely don't be discouraged about how long it might be taking or how hard it is or anything like that. I think you just got to be persistent and you just keep going, because you're gonna get there one way or another. And if you don't get to exactly where you want to go, it might detour you to something that you're possibly better suited for in the first place. So just keep going.
And how can people best either follow you or contact you if they were interested in your services or even your mentoring?
So you can follow me on Instagram. It's at Starghill, which is StarGhill, or you can go to my website, which is michaelstarghill.com. Just send me a note from there. I'm pretty sure my email address is on there. So yeah, you can email me. You can slide in my IG DMs if you have any questions about photography, of course. So yeah, either on social, I'm on Twitter. It's usually at Starghill for everything, or you can go to my website. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I thank everyone who attended today. I especially thank our special guest, Michael Starghill, who's doing great things. As you can see, successful, down to earth, and moving in his purpose. And we just want to encourage everyone to show up for next week's episode, where we talk to Rancho Hyman, who is an artificial intelligence engineer at Adobe, doing some great things and has a very interesting perspective as a diverse engineer about his experiences and what he's trying to do. And so ultimately, let's continue being great in the things that we are striving to do, and let's share the knowledge with others as well. So thank you everyone for your time today. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Wes. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
For sure. And keep taking care of the family, man. With respect.
I'm trying.
That's all we can do.
For sure.